Hello, 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 and welcome to the College of Creation. My name is Dan.
And my name is Michael.
And we are Dungeons & Dragons DMs who love to homebrew items, spells, creatures, features for Dungeons & Dragons. We make all kinds of stuff on this show. We make something new, in fact, just about every week based on prompts that we get from our listeners. And this week we are revisiting an older prompt because it got looped back into our conversations, and we were asked to make more Pokemon.
I love some Pokemon. I like using Pokemon in my games, whether they are telegraphed as Pokemon or not.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great piece of media, especially for folks of our generation.
Yeah.
Who kind of came up with the beginnings of Pokemon. I will always be happy to see this prompt, and I will make Pokemon stat blocks as much as the people want me to.
Yeah, for those of you who may not have heard the episode, who might be joining us later on into our run, you can go back and listen to episode 12. It was early on that we made Pokemon stat blocks here. I really enjoyed what you brought there. You brought specifically a thing that I loved, and I brought in later, which was the rotating moveset, which I think is a very unique and important part of Pokemon lore. Is this idea of having, each version of a Pokemon not necessarily be identical in a lot of ways. They don't all know the identical same abilities. They don't all have the same stats even necessarily. That kind of idea that you brought in, I thought was really, really cool to like randomize, or at least partially randomize.
Some slight differentiation. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you brought the idea of mythic actions as an avenue for evolution, which I think was very cool. I don't know that there's a way to properly analog evolution in Dungeons and Dragons, but it was really good. It certainly is not the first thing that I would have thought of to do that, but it is a very specific thing that not every monster can do. So that could be specific to Pokemon inspired monsters, and I thought that was a really novel use of the mythic actions, because they're not used very often. They're only in a couple of published books, and even within those books, only a few monsters have those options available. So using that as a means for evolution was very cool, and I think very smart.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's hard to like properly create a mechanic for Pokemon evolution in the game. You will find out that I did try today a little bit,
okay,
but in a very different way. It is one of those things that's just it's hard to manage, like what specifically is the trigger for this, and also what are the situations in which your party or your players will interact with a full evolution line, or like the concept of evolution within there. Mostly if you're talking about a monster that you're encountering in the wild and fighting, you're either going to deal with it there and then, and you're going to move on, or you're going to run away. So like you may never see this thing go from one phase to the next in a normal encounter.
Right.
So the situation becomes very sort of strange and atypical for that.
Yeah, I think it would almost have to be, unless you really want to go full out and create an entire index of every Pokemon, and you have a party of completionists that their only goal at your table in whatever game you're playing is to find all of these creatures and witness all of them changing from form to form.
Yeah.
Which I think wouldn't not be a fun game.
Yeah,
I think
for sure.
In a specific setting, I would enjoy playing that. But unless you have that, it has to be like a very specific companion type of situation where like the intent of the player with a single Pokemon would be to like grow alongside the companion. Like it would have to be very like Drake Warden adjacent, where like as you level up as a character, your companion also
Right.
levels up with you and gains different abilities. Like the Drake can move faster, and the Drake gets stronger, and then the Drake can fly, and all this stuff. It would have to be like a subclass more than an evolution mechanic for monsters, I think. And then you could kind of reskin the companion based on what type of Pokemon you wanted within the umbrella of the subclass.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's a much more complicated proposal than just like make a stat block for your favorite Pokemon. Because really, I mean, if we want to get into the weeds, we talked about this a little bit on our previous Pokemon episode, but like there is a Pokemon TTRPG that you can go and find and play that probably much more accurately replicates that experience that you were just talking about, right? Of like getting a team of Pokemon, or maybe just you with a partner Pokemon, working with it along the evolution line and training and getting stronger together, etc. In sort of a more organic way that's built into the entirety of the game and not just like a single subclass portion of the game. But I also think that like Pokemon is an interesting case in terms of game design and how it interacts with something like D&D. It's a very common, I think, fantasy to go to for folks who enjoy D&D. I think there's this desire for like something Pokemon adjacent there for a lot of people.
Yeah.
There's a lot of crossover in fandom and things like that, but like game design wise, when you're talking about the way that Pokemon is designed as like a JRPG, your team or your player character isn't actually doing anything, right? Your player character isn't the one with the abilities and skills. It's your Pokemon that form the party. So, when you're talking about D&D, your Pokemon are kind of taking on those roles of like your party members more than your character is. And so trying to move that over into D&D is very weird. And also the way it's designed as a game is very like generally pretty linear.
And they've brought a bit of that now into the mainline games, where you see kind of like free roaming Pokemon out in the overworld, and it's a little bit less linear as far as the story mapping goes. You can choose where you want to go and when, but even so, it's taking the main source of power and shoving it into a corner next to a player that has immense amounts of power. And so it's just like it doesn't quite work.
I believe it's your turn to go first, Michael. I'd love to see what you made today.
Mine is very basic. This is just some more Pokemon.
Some more Pokemon.
Just some more Pokemon. About a week ago, I sent you a message with no context, and I rolled 8 D1025s.
That's what that was.
And you replied with 3 question marks, and I told you not to worry about it. I just want this on the record for later. And the 8 results were 378, 107, 628, 596, 236, 586, 282, and 924.
Wow.
Now, there are 1,025 documented Pokemon in the National Pokedex, all of them with a number attached, and I have made the 8 Pokemon that are attached to those 8 numbers.
I love this method. This method is very good, very fun. I like this so much. I don't know a number of these. I'm not nearly as I don't have the encyclopedic knowledge of Pokemon that some do. So a lot of these are not familiar to me, but that is okay. This is a great way to like just immediate idea generation. Great stuff. I love that.
Yeah. I felt like I took the easy way out last time by doing like I couldn't really land a thematic idea, but at least I knew I had Magikarp and Gyarados as a fail safe. Like I knew that those were kind of waiting in the wings if I couldn't think of something else. I took the even easier way out this time by not relying on my creative ability to come up with a theme at all.
I love it.
I just based it totally in randomization. And so I kind of ran with that. And I admittedly did not use rotating movesets at all this time. I built these to be dropped into a game at random, and they are immediately usable. So there is really no decision-making work on the DM side at all for these. So we'll start with our first number, which is number 378. So this is Regice. This is a big crystalline legendary Pokemon.
Nice.
It is a huge elemental. It's a lawful neutral with an armor class of 17, 145 hit points, and a speed of 25. Pretty middling stats, except for its wisdom is really high. It's a 24 wisdom, but everything else is between 10 and 16 with a 9 dexterity. So it's a -1 dexterity modifier. Not very good speed, Regice. It's resistant to cold damage, vulnerable to fire damage, and it has 30 feet of tremor sense. Its ability is Ice Body. While within climates of extreme cold, Regice regains 1d6 hit points at the beginning of each of its turns.
Nice.
It has a multi-attack. It can make 2 Ice Punch attacks or 3 Icicle Spear attacks. It's a basic melee attack and a ranged attack roll. Nothing crazy there. The Punch attack does bludgeoning and cold. The Icicle Spear does piercing damage and cold damage. The 2 interesting attacks, though, or the 2 interesting actions, it has an Ice Beam attack with that recharges on a 4, 5, or 6 on a d6. And that is essentially Lightning Bolt, but cold damage. A little bit,
yeah, cool.
Got less of a range.
Sure.
And then it also has a Snowscape ability. I didn't even know this was... all of these actions, by the way, are actual Pokemon moves from the games. Snowscape, which can only be used twice a day. Regice emanates an area of harsh, biting cold out to 30 feet, lasting for 1 minute. Creatures that enter the emanation or start their turn there, not including Regice, must make a DC 15 Constitution save or take 1d10 cold damage. The ground within the emanation counts as difficult terrain for any creature not resistant or immune to cold damage. So it's just a little bit snowy.
Yeah, love it.
The next one in our list is 107. This is the only Generation 1 Pokemon. Something that everybody should know if you are even a casual Pokemon player. And this is Hitmonchan.
Hitmonchan.
This is one of the ones that I was thinking about doing last time. One of the ideas I had was to make Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee last time. And I didn't go with that idea. But this is a medium humanoid, any lawful alignment for Hitmonchan. And I base Hitmonchan off of a monk, because Hitmonchan punches all the time. So I tried to get as much bang for my buck as I could, as many punches in a round as felt reasonable for a CR 3 to 6-ish creature. So resistant to bludgeoning damage, vulnerable to psychic damage, pretty high strength, high dex. Its ability is called Keen Eye. Hitmonchan's ability scores and max hit points can't be reduced.
Nice.
Its actions has multi-attack. Hitmonchan makes 3 of any of the following punch attacks. The first option is a Drain Punch. It deals some bludgeoning damage, and if it hits, it regains hit points equal to half of the damage dealt. Round it down. It has an Element Punch, which is the second option. This is basically Thunder Punch, Fire Punch, or Ice Punch from the game. So it deals bludgeoning damage plus cold, fire, or lightning damage, your choice. And then the third one is called Focus Punch. This deals bludgeoning damage as well. Once it's used, it can't be used again for 2 more turns, and if it misses, the intended target has advantage on their next attack roll against Hitmonchan. It's just really strong.
Yeah.
Hitmonchan also has a reaction. This is Mach Punch. The trigger for this reaction is a new initiative round begins. So whenever you reach the top of the round, Hitmonchan has the ability to forfeit its reaction for its first turn by making a melee attack.
That's great. Excellent build. It's weird to me that it's a humanoid, but that's fair.
Yeah, I don't know how else to classify it. I felt like Fae was a little bit too far out there. Monstrosity felt mean. to Hitmonchan.
Monstrosity feels correct to me, but like
It does, but I don't know.
these guys are weird.
I think
these guys are real weird.
it's really strange. I feel like they've gotten away from that a little bit in the later series of Pokemon, but in that first one, they had a lot of vaguely humanistic.
There are
Pokemon.
some weird human ones. I mean, there continue to be here and there. A lot of the fighting ones, I think, are weirdly too human.
Yeah. Machamp, Machoke, Machop.
Yes, also too humanoid for my taste in general. Although they have like lizardy faces, so I don't know what that's about. I was gonna ask if you were a Hitmonchan or a Hitmonlee guy because when you played the original Red and Blue, you would go to the dojo and you'd be able to pick, but you couldn't have both. It was one of the many sort of things across the first game, and I think they've sort of consisted with that throughout the series that you have a choice between like two different. Did you play back through those games? Because I know you started a little later into it, so I don't know if you had a strong choice between Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee.
I was always more of a Hitmonchan kind of guy. I've always been a water Pokemon enthusiast, so having a fighting type that could use Ice Punch was very cool. So I would always kind of lean towards anything water adjacent. So Hitmonchan for me, I was happy that this came up randomly.
I was always a Hitmonlee kind of guy.
Well, that's all right. The yin to my yang. Good partners for this show.
Indeed. Well, that's great. Okay, what else you got here?
Number 3, we have number 628. That is Braviary. This is the final evolution this is a later generation, early stage bird line. Braviary is very cool. I looked up the lore to all of these as well, and this one is the only one that a lot of the lore kind of crept into the stat block itself. But Braviary is like a fiercely combative bird and like wears battle scars as tokens of honor. So the more damage it takes in combat, the better it feels going forward, which I thought was very, very cool and strange to have that type of mentality in a Pokemon.
That is fun.
Anyway, this is a medium beast. It's a chaotic good, armor class of 16, hit points 68, a speed of 15 feet, and a fly speed of 80 feet. It's resistant to acid damage, vulnerable to lightning damage, and immune to the frightened condition.
Cool.
Its ability is Defiant. Whenever Braviary is under a status condition, it makes damage rolls at advantage. Actions include a multi-attack, like some of the other ones here do. Peck and Air Cutter are my ranged and melee attack rolls here. Again, they're pretty straightforward as far as stat blocks go for low CR beasts. It also has a Hone Claws action. Braviary takes time to sharpen its talons. 1d6 is added to Braviary's next damage roll.
Nice.
So it takes an action to be stronger in the future, and then it can also use Reversal as an action. This is also a melee attack roll. It deals some bludgeoning damage and some force damage, and if Braviary's current hit point total is less than 1/4 of its maximum, this attack is a critical hit on a 16 through 20 on the die.
Nice. Love that.
Moving on to number 596. This is Galvantula. This is a lightning spider. It's a tiny beast. Any chaotic alignment. It is resistant to psychic, vulnerable to fire, and its ability is Swarm. Galvantula's attack and damage rolls gain a bonus equal to the number of other Galvantulas standing within 5 feet of it, to a maximum of 3.
Ah, that's fun.
So if you have 4 Galvantulas just crawling around together, they're all stronger. It has 3 actions available to it. The first is Electro Ball, which is a ranged attack. If Galvantula's speed is higher than the target's, this attack instead deals 9 lightning damage instead of 5. Those are averages. You have Fury Cutter, which is a basic melee attack that does piercing and poison damage, and String Shot, which is a ranged attack roll that does not deal damage. Every time you hit with String Shot, the target's speed is reduced by 10 until the end of its next turn.
Cool.
The point of Galvantula is to reduce your enemy's speed as much as you can.
In your Electro Ball, gets...
Yep.
Makes sense.
It also has a reaction. This is called Sticky Web. The trigger for the reaction is another creature hits Galvantula with a melee attack. So if it gets hit,
Gotcha.
it could then force a saving throw. It's a strength save, and force the target to become restrained until they take an action to wipe off the weapon.
Cool. Nice.
Weird that this next one came up. This is 236 Tyrogue, which is the pre-evolution to Hitmonchan.
Oh, I gotta tell you, I did not realize that such a thing existed.
Yeah. So this is the pre-evolution. It can evolve into Hitmonchan, Hitmonlee, and Hitmontop based on their stats. So this Tyrogue, I just made kind of like a lesser version of Hitmonchan, I guess. It's vulnerable to psychic damage. The ability is Steadfast. If Tyrogue is critically hit, its speed is doubled until the end of its next turn. It has a tackle attack, which is a basic melee attack. It can use Focus Energy as an action, which says Tyrogue's next attack is a critical hit on a 19 or 20. So you kind of roll the dice there. You can use an action for a higher chance at a crit later. And then Low Sweep. This is a recharge on a 5 or 6 of the die. This is a melee attack roll that deals some bludgeoning damage, and the target is knocked prone. So that's pretty cool.
Nice.
Next one is number 586. This is Sawsbuck. This is a deer Pokemon, or a buck Pokemon, more specifically. And what's cool about Sawsbuck is that its appearance changes based on the season that it is existing.
Oh, that's
in.
cool.
So it has a different form for summer, spring, winter, and autumn. So I have a few extra actions available based on which form it takes. So this is a medium Fey. Any lawful alignment for Sawsbuck. It resists lightning damage. It's vulnerable to fire. And it is immune to the stunned and frightened conditions. Its ability is called Chlorophyll. If the weather is not overcast, rainy, or snowy, Sawsbuck's base movement speed is 60 instead of 40 feet.
Cool.
Its actions include a multi-attack. It takes one double kick attack and one energy ball attack. Double kick, basic melee attack roll, with the only caveat being if it hits, you can also deal additional damage to a second creature within 5 feet. Energy ball, basic ranged attack. It deals poison and force damage. It also has a Leaf Storm ability that any form can use. This forces a dex save that deals slashing damage on a failure and pushes enemies away from Sawsbuck. And then I have 4 actions that can be used only in specific forms. So if you are the winter form of Sawsbuck, you can use Endure as your 4th. If Sawsbuck is hit by an attack that would reduce it to 0 hit points before the start of its next turn, it is instead reduced to 1 hit point. If Sawsbuck is not reduced to 0 hit points within the duration, this attack does nothing. Once Sawsbuck successfully uses this action, though, it can't do so again until the next dawn. We have a few bonus actions here. For the spring form, you can use grassy terrain. An area of difficult terrain extends out from Sawsbuck to 15 feet and lasts for 1 minute.
Nice.
Sawsbuck's movement is not affected by this terrain.
Cool.
In the summer form, Sawsbuck can use Light Screen. Sawsbuck gains proficiency in 1 saving throw of its choice until the beginning of its next turn.
Yeah.
And then there's one reaction if your Sawsbuck is in the autumn form. This is called Helping Hand. The trigger is another creature within 30 feet of Sawsbuck missing on an attack roll, and the response, Sawsbuck just grants that creature advantage on its next attack roll for the autumn form.
Like the multiple forms situation. Very cool.
Yeah, it's always cool. My initial idea was to make this more complex with some tables included and kind of like tie it to the Eladrin somehow, and I just couldn't figure it out.
That is a tricky one.
It ended up being too powerful because the Eladrin, they're like CR10 creatures. It's not a joke fighting an Eladrin, so it just ended up being way too much for really what is a mediocre normal grass Pokemon. So I just went with this instead. Fan favorite up next, though, number 282 is Gardevoir. I really like this Pokemon a lot. I've had it on plenty of my teams in many games. This is a medium Fey, lawful good.
Nice.
Armor class of 16, 108 hit points with a speed of 30. Resists psychic damage. It is vulnerable to poison damage, and it is immune to dragon breath weapons. So in the game, Gardevoir is immune to dragon type moves. So I said that it could be affected by dragon breath weapons regardless of damage type.
Cool.
It's also immune to the charmed condition and has true sight out to 20 feet. So stats alone, it is no slouch.
Yeah, for sure.
Its ability is called Synchronize. If another creature causes Gardevoir to become paralyzed, petrified, poisoned, or stunned, that creature is also paralyzed, petrified, poisoned, or stunned. It just mirrors the condition back to the other creature if it comes from a creature. It has 3 actions here. The first one is called Disarming Voice. This attack always hits and deals 2d6 force damage. Each subsequent time this attack is used, its damage is reduced by 1.
Okay.
So you can use it as many times as you want until it does
becomes
nothing.
less and less effective each time.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep. The next attack is Future Sight. This prompts an intelligence saving throw, DC of 15, by a creature within 60 feet of Gardevoir. On a failure, the target takes damage from this attack in 1d4 rounds. That's equal to 1d10 psychic damage times the number of rounds weighted, or half as much on a successful save.
Okay.
So if it goes 4 rounds, that's 4d10 psychic damage. 1 round, 1d10. And then half as much on the success. Yeah. And the third ability here as an action is called Pain Split. This is also an intelligence saving throw, also DC 15, by a creature within 60 feet of Gardevoir. A creature can choose to willingly fail this save if they wish. On a failure, the target's and Gardevoir's hit points are added together and then divided in half, rounded down. Both Gardevoir's and the target's hit point total then equals the result. Gardevoir can't use Pain Split 2 rounds in a row. Add it all together, split it in half. They are now back on an even playing field.
This is a nice little ability to use against a barbarian of a high enough level that like you look like you have about 140 something HP. Make an intelligence saving throw and we'll see.
As I was writing this, I try to be very conscious of how long the descriptions for these actions were.
Sure.
So I thought about adding the caveat that if half of whatever the sum is higher than Gardevoir's initial total hit points, it caps at the initial, you can't go past 108 hit points. But I didn't include that. Because how often are you going to be...
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty rare, I
against
imagine.
a hyper... Yeah. Certainly effective on a Tarrasque, maybe. And then we have one reaction for Gardevoir. This is called Healing Wish. It can be used once a day. The trigger is Gardevoir being reduced to 0 hit points. The response is Gardevoir chooses another creature it can see within 30 feet. That creature is restored to its hit point maximum. So the last one here is number 924. This is Tandemaus. This was the one I was least familiar with, for sure. But it does have a very cool attack that is only available to Tandemaus in the game. Tandemaus is 2 tiny mice attached together by the tips of their tails. And its evolved form is 4 mice that look the same. So it's a very strange, newer Pokemon.
And they look like they're like stitched together, right? Like
yeah.
they look like doll mice. They look
little mice. Mouse dolls for sure. But this is a tiny beast, chaotic neutral, really low stats. Its highest stat is a 12 wisdom. Its ability is called Run Away. It does not provoke attacks of opportunity or trigger traps.
Cool.
So if you need a scout for a dungeon or something, it won't be damaged in that regard. But the action here, it has a multi-attack. Tandemaus can use 1d10 population bomb attack.
Okay.
So every time you use the multi-attack, you roll a d10, and that's how many times you get to attack.
Cool.
It is a very low damage melee attack. It has a reach of 10 feet because you have 2 mice with you, but it does, on average, 2 bludgeoning damage. It also has a fake tears action. This prompts a charisma saving throw, DC 11. On a target, Tandem Mouse can see within 30 feet. On a failure, the target suffers a -2 penalty to their saves until the start of Tandem Mouse's next turn.
Nice.
But that's it. So 8 totally random Pokemon rolled a week ago
Yeah.
to be randomly placed into your games.
These are all very fun. I do really enjoy how how unique every single one is. They'll have their own unique abilities and attacks and reactions and things like that. I feel like so many times, especially various beasts in the monster manual, especially lower level beasts, like end up just being the same thing where they only do kind of one feature thing and nothing really else unique.
Yeah.
Pokemon feel like they need to be more special than that, especially. So that's very fun.
Yeah, I think even the ones that kind of fit the same slot in each generation, like you were talking, like each set of games has specific Pokemon that you choose between, and there are kind of precedents that are set and met throughout each generation, throughout each game. Sure. Even those ones are different, right?
Yeah.
Because you have your early route bug Pokemon and early route bird Pokemon that are all similar, but they have each generation. There are things that make them at least a little bit different.
Right.
Do we need all 1,025 Pokemon? Probably not. Probably not. I think maybe 100 of them at this point are just fish.
There's a lot more fish than I remember there being. I'll say that for sure.
It's a lot of fish. But largely, I think that all of them have at least something that makes them unique. And that does not, you're totally right, that does not happen in the Monster Manual as much as it should be happening. But what about you?
Indeed. Michael, I went a different route today. I did not actually create just straight up stat blocks like I did last time, or like you did this time or the previous time. I have done some adjusting and reskinning more than anything. Michael, I have a question for you. Do you want to be the very best?
I want to be the best there ever was, Dan.
Like no one ever was? Well, then you need to be the Ranger subclass Pokemon Master.
Oh, yes.
This is... it started out as an entirely just a reskin of the Beastmaster Ranger, but I pulled the later features almost entirely apart. The only feature that really bears any resemblance is level 3, and then from there I made features that prioritized the function of the Pokemon and the companion beast more than the Hunter's Mark crossover, more than like providing additional options. So your Beastmaster or your Beast will get a lot more things to do, and you will get less things to do. So I pulled out some of that to try and balance it a little bit. It's probably still way overbalanced, but I couldn't stop. So here we go. Pokemon, strange, wondrous creatures. Obviously, we all know that becoming a Pokemon Master requires dedication to building a strong bond with a partner Pokemon, training it, and working effectively to overcome any obstacle together. You're my best friend in a world we must defend. This is the point of Pokemon. So we start with the level 3 feature, which is almost identical to the Beastmaster's level 3 feature, which is that you form a bond with a friendly starter Pokemon to train and travel with. You choose your partner Pokemon's stat block. I went with the original 3. These could be adjusted.
How can you not?
You can choose Bulbasaur, the grassy amphibian, Charmander, the fiery lizard, or Squirtle, the water turtle. The Pokemon is friendly to you and your allies, obeys your commands, and vanishes if you die. In combat, it acts during your turn. It can move and use its reaction on its own, but only uses one action, the dodge action, unless you take a bonus action to command it to take a different action. You can also sacrifice one of your attacks when you take the attack action to command the beast to take the special attack action. So it has a special attack specifically that is different than some of its other actions. And if you have the incapacitated condition, the Pokemon acts on its own and can do whatever it wants and doesn't have to use the dodge action. Same thing also with restoring your Pokemon as to restoring your Beast Companion. You can use a magic action and expend a spell slot if your partner Beast or partner Pokemon in this case has dropped to 0 hit points to return it to life after 1 minute. So that is mostly just to reflect that, like, you kind of just get knocked out in Pokemon. There's not really like a death mechanic. So
yeah, spell slot revive.
Exactly. Yeah. But then we move on. We move on to level 7 feature is called The Power That's Inside. Your partner Pokemon has grown strong enough to evolve. In its new form, your partner Pokemon gains a new special attack and a new trait and can learn 1 additional action of your choice from its learnable actions. Each time you gain a level in this class, you can replace one of these actions with another one from the list. So from evolving your Bulbasaur to an Ivysaur, it will gain a new special attack, a new trait. I'm going to go through these separately once we get down into the stat blocks. But just know the Bulbasaur evolves into Ivysaur, the Charmander evolves into the Charmeleon, and the Squirtle evolves into the Wartortle. Level 11, this feature is called You Teach Me and I'll Teach You. Your partner Pokemon can learn an additional move from its learnable actions, and in addition, I kept this. The first time on each turn it hits a creature under the effect of your Hunter's Mark spell, the Pokemon deals extra force damage equal to the bonus damage of that spell.
Yep.
We'll just keep that.
Yeah, that's great.
That's still a good feature. And then at level 15, you finally reach a Heart So True. Your partner Pokemon reaches its final form, gaining a new trait and a new special attack, and additionally learning 1 more action. Your Ivysaur turns into Venusaur, your Charmeleon turns into Charizard, and your Wartortle into a Blastoise. So let's get down into the stat blocks, shall we? If you start off with Bulbasaur, you've got a lot of stats that are very similar to the current Beastmaster stat block for the Beast of the Land. All these 3 are fairly close to the Beast of the Land with some notable exceptions. They all have an AC of I think they all have an AC of 13 plus your Wisdom modifier. HP is variable a little bit, but Bulbasaur has an HP of 5 plus 5 times your Ranger level. And it's got D8s for its hit dice. It has a speed of 30 feet and a climb speed of 30 feet. Pretty decent stats across its physical stuff. It has a +2 across all strength, dex, and con. Not so great on intelligence, a little better on wisdom, and a flat +0 on charisma. It has damage resistance to poison damage. It has dark vision, and it understands its trainer's spoken language. Its traits at first is just Primal Bond. Your proficiency bonus gets added to any ability check or saving throw the Pokemon makes. That's it. You add your proficiency bonus to all of its saving throws and ability checks. Its actions, its special attack to start with is just Vine Whip. It's a melee attack roll with a bonus equal to your spell attack modifier and a reach of 10 feet in this case. It's a vine. It goes a little bit further. It does a D8 plus 2 plus your wisdom modifier slashing damage. It also has a second action. This is growth. The Bulbasaur's vines and leaves expand, storing up energy, and the next special attack it makes before the end of its next turn is made with advantage. So that'll raise your special attack briefly. When you get up to leveling Bulbasaur up to Ivysaur, it gains a different special attack that's Razor Leaf. It is now a ranged attack roll with the same bonus to hit. It has a reach of 30 feet and deals 2d8 plus 2 plus wisdom modifier slashing damage and scores a crit on a hit of 19 or 20. Razor Leaf has a higher crit rate than other features. And it also gains the Overgrow trait. While Ivysaur is bloodied, it adds 1d4 to all attack rolls that it makes. And then finally, when it gets up to Venusaur, it gains Solar Beam as its special attack. It's a ranged attack roll again, 60 feet, and it's 4d8 plus 2, plus your wisdom modifier, radiant damage. And after using this action, Venusaur cannot take any actions or reactions until the end of its next turn. So it can just do that one thing. Now, it can also learn a number of actions. It can learn Leech Seed, Poison Powder, and Sleep Powder when you are at level 7. And it can learn Sweet Scent and Synthesis once you get to level 11. Leech Seed allows you to target a creature within 30 feet. It makes a dex save. And if it fails at the start of each of its turns until it uses an action to brush the seeds off, its HP is reduced by 1d6 and your Pokemon regains half that amount of HP. Poison Powder poisons creatures within a 5-foot radius. Sleep Powder does the same but makes them unconscious in a 5-foot radius. Sweet Scent forces targets within 10 feet of the Pokemon when it makes this action to make a wisdom saving throw, and if they fail, all attacks against that creature are made with advantage. They sort of lose concentration a little bit. And then Synthesis. Your Pokemon can choose to roll any number of hit dice up to your proficiency bonus and regain the rolled amount of HP, and if it is in Bright Light, your Pokemon can re-roll any of the dice and use either roll.
Nice.
Additionally, when it evolves into Venusaur, it gains the Chlorophyll special trait. While it is in Bright Light, it gains +1 to AC and Dexterity saving throws. So it's a little quicker, a little more dexterous, easy to dodge. Then we move down to Charmander. Charmander is a medium Pokemon / dragon. I guess I should say Bulbasaur was a medium Pokemon / plant. Charmander is a Pokemon / dragon. It has a little less HP. It has 4 + 4 times your Ranger level. Its Dex is a little bit higher, but its Strength and Con are a little bit less as well. It has resistance to fire damage, as you might expect, and similarly has the Primal Bond trait that allows you to add your proficiency bonus to ability checks and saving throws. Its special attack is Ember. It deals 1d10 +2 plus your wisdom modifier fire damage and has a range of 30 feet. And then it also has the Growl action. It targets a creature it can see within 30 feet, and the target must subtract 1d4 from the next attack roll it makes before the end of its next turn. When it evolves into Charmeleon, it gains Fire Fang, which is a melee attack, deals 1d10 +2 plus wisdom modifier piercing damage, plus 1d10 fire damage, and the target must make a wisdom saving throw against your ranger spell save DC or become frightened until the end of its next turn. It also gains the Blaze trait. While Charmeleon is bloodied, it adds 1d4 to all damage rolls. So it's a little bit beefier on the attacks. When it gets up to Charizard, your big body Charizard gains Flamethrower, which is a ranged attack roll, 3d10 +2 plus wisdom modifier fire damage, and will burn the target, so the target takes an additional 2d6 fire damage at the start of its next turn. It also gains the Blaze trait. While Charizard is in Bright Light, it can reroll any 1s and 2s on damage dice when it rolls for fire damage, but it must use the second result.
Nice.
Its learnable actions are Dragon Breath at 7th level, which allows you to make a special attack and also force the target to make a Constitution save or become stunned until the end of the turn. It can learn Smokescreen, which allows you to target a 10-foot radius area and lightly obscure that area and force any attack rolls made against creatures in the area to be made with disadvantage. It could learn Slash, which is a melee attack roll that deals 2d8 plus wisdom modifier slashing damage and adds an additional 1d8 if the hit is a critical hit. It can learn Scary Face at level 11. You can target one creature within 30 feet of you, force it to make a wisdom saving throw, and it becomes frightened for 1 minute if it fails. And also, if it is currently in initiative, its initiative score becomes 1 on the next round of combat. So it fully drops down in the initiative order if you hit it with the Scary Face. And then it also has Outrage. For the next 3 turns, your Pokemon uses its special attack at the nearest possible hostile target, even if you do not use a bonus action to command it. It makes these attacks with advantage. Yeah. At the end of its 3rd turn, your Pokemon becomes stunned until the end of its next turn and cannot use this action again until you complete a long rest.
That's a very cool interpretation of Outrage. Anything that's multi-turn is hard to interpret.
It is a little
And
bit.
I love the way you did that.
Yeah, there was definitely some fun like figuring out what the cool moves to like allow it to learn is, and then also be like, okay, but how do I translate that into the rules?
I had a similar problem because I'm now 9 generations of Pokemon, and the lists of moves available are so
It's
big.
gigantic.
Like how do you go through them all
Crazy.
and figure out which ones to actually place? And I really like the selection that you went with.
Yeah, I mostly went with ones that felt like they were really core to the identity of this starter Pokemon. As much as possible. But so then we have Squirtle, medium Pokemon / elemental. It has a bit more HP than the others, 6 + 6 times your ranger level. It has a speed of 25 feet and a swim speed of 30. It's got higher constitution, but otherwise pretty much on par with everyone. A little bit lower dex. It has damage resistance to cold. Like you say, it would be nice if there's a water damage type that you could do here, but like there's nothing there. I considered adding vulnerabilities across all of these guys, but I felt like that was maybe a little bit
weird for a companion.
Yeah, it's weird for a companion.
It seems weird for a companion. As a monster stat block, I felt fine adding them in, but that's really strange to force the crux of your subclass to have a vulnerability.
It felt a little bit
I agree
harsh
with your choice.
There, so I didn't do that. It also has the Primal Bond, and its special attack to begin with is Water Gun. Ranged attack roll, deals 1d6 + 2 + Wisdom modifier force damage. And in this case, I was like, okay, this is just a blast of water. It's going to deal force damage. I considered bludgeoning, but let's say force. The damage die is lower anyway, so it's not going to be super duper powerful. And then it has Tail Whip. Squirtle targets a creature it can see within 30 feet, and the target AC is reduced by 1 until the end of your next turn. So it just lowers the defense of a creature a little bit. Your Squirtle, when it evolves into Wartortle, gains the special attack Water Pulse. It's a ranged attack roll. Once more, deals 2d6 + 2 + Wisdom modifier force damage, and the target is pushed back 5 feet and knocked prone. So a little more damage and the prone condition, and then also it has the Torrent trait. While Wartortle is bloodied, it adds 1d4 to all saving throws. Very defense-focused creature, this. And then when the Wartortle goes all the way up to Blastoise, it gets Hydro Pump. Ranged attack roll, 30 feet, 2d6 + 2 + Wisdom modifier force damage, and 2d6 cold damage as well. Big blast of cold water there. It gains the special trait Rain Dish. While Blastoise is in rainy weather, it regains 1d8 HP at the start of each of its turns. So basically just gets a hit die back at the start of each turn in the rain. Its learnable actions are Withdraw, which allows it to raise its AC by 2 until the end of its next turn. Rapid Spin. All creatures within 5 feet of your Pokemon must make a dex save or take 1d8 bludgeoning damage, and this action also allows your Pokemon to instantly escape from the grappled or restrained condition. And then Protect. Target one creature within 5 feet, and that creature gains resistance to all damage until the end of your next turn. At level 11, it's allowed to learn Shell Smash. Your Pokemon's AC is reduced by 2 for 1 minute. For the duration, all damage rolls for its special attacks increase by 1 die size. So all those D6s bump up to D8s for special attacks during that area for Shell Smash. And then Whirlpool. Target one creature within 10 feet. The target must make a strength save or become restrained by a whirlpool for 1 minute. At the end of each turn, the target can attempt this save again, ending the effect on a success, but taking 1d6 force damage on a failure. If you're doing the math, you learn a new action at level 7, level 11, level 15. So you can only learn 3 of the 5 on this list, or have 3 of the 5 on this list known at any one time.
Plus your special attack.
Which will always be there. Hopefully is kind of emulating that rotating moveset a little bit, and that choice of like, what am I choosing to synergize? What am I choosing to like focus on? Am I choosing to focus on, Charmander focuses primarily on pretty heavy damage output. So do you want to focus on that entirely? Do you want to supplement with maybe a couple of the ones that are non-damage dealing or non-damage focused? That was sort of the direction that I went for the emulation of the rotating moveset. And I like it. I think this is a fun version of the Beastmaster to run if you are running a Pokemon type world.
Yeah.
I was like, it would be fun to like have it be Pokemon specific and have them have some special actions. So I just ran down the thing. It's maybe not going to fit into every game, certainly. But I hope if you have like some goofiness and maybe some Pokemon focus at your table, give it a shot. Have fun.
Yeah, I love how accessible this makes any 3-stage evolution line. With a little bit of work with a DM, you could use any series of 3 Pokemon and make it work with this. And even with some fine-tuning and intentional strengthening at level 15, you could use a 2-stage for sure. Mm-hmm. Bump up the special attack and have some extra options in place. Dan, I hate to dip into the possibility of recency bias as I just encountered this minutes ago. This may be my favorite thing you've
ever made. That's very exciting to me.
It's just so fun. I want to play this immediately, not just because it's a Ranger. I'm very happy that so much Ranger love has happened, indeed, especially recently in these past like 5-6 episodes that we've done. This is the way to do it, right? Because the hurdle is always the evolution.
Right. It's so tricky.
It's always the evolution. It's really hard to nail, and I think this is probably overpowered because you, as the trainer, quote unquote, are also a massively powerful magical being. So maybe you need to take some hits as a player, to have the ability to wield this creature as a bonus.
I'm trying to figure that part out of it because I'll be honest, I did not really look at the regular Ranger portion of the progression here. That is a maybe a little bit of a hard sell for a couple of these.
I mean, if you get up to higher levels, you're at 4 or 5 free hunters marks a day.
Right.
You have advantage on all of those attacks.
I think the only thing that I could say is like maybe there needs to be like some limiting factor on the special attack other than like maybe if you use a bonus action, it can't use its special attack. And it can use a different attack, but you have to use sacrifice one of your attacks for it to actually take its special attack. That's maybe the thing that balances it a little bit.
I don't know how this would balance out, but you use your concentration for Hunter's Mark, and you cast Hunter's Mark on the companion. And as long as you have Hunter's Mark on your companion, then they can use their special attack.
Interesting.
You don't get the benefits of Hunter's Mark on an enemy. So you're concentrating on them and allowing them to take the spotlight.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it is maybe tricky to figure out, and you're probably right. It's probably deeply unbalanced.
It's so fun, though.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, though. It's just so fun.
I would love to just have a party full of Rangers.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
All with different beast companions, because then you don't have to worry about party balance, because you can have a super defensive tank Pokemon like a Golem, a Geodude Graveler Golem, to frontline for you, but also like a healer cleric like Clefable, because it's just so fun. Like you're gonna have enough gas in the tank with your players just enjoying experiencing the Pokemon that they want to use, like work with each player and figure out which one they want. You could run the same campaign 20 times and have 20 totally different games because there are so many options. Or you can take the worst route and all of you choose fish. Yeah, I like this so much.
I'm glad you enjoyed it so much.
I like this so much.
I had a good time thinking about it, making it happen. I enjoy making these Pokemon things, man. I think it's a fun time.
I like this so much better than what I made.
I love what you made. You made 8 very cool stat blocks that I think all feel really unique and special.
Thank you.
So we both did great today, Michael.
Yeah.
Let's see what we're going to make for next time, shall we?
I am pulling up currently our D20 table for our homebrew prompts. These are prompts given to us by our friends, by our community, by each other, some of them. And this is what dictates what Dan and I create on a week-to-week basis. This week, of course, we made more stat blocks for Pokemon. Dan, would you please tell us what we will be making next week?
That is a 13.
A 13 is another monster.
Oh, okay.
13 is a mutant monster for a post-apocalyptic no magic game.
Oh, no magic.
Add more stipulations in there. Why
No magic.
A mutant monster for a post-apocalyptic no magic game. So there's a big distinction between low magic and no magic. No magic is very different.
Yeah.
No magic games are rare.
What do we think about magic-like effects? That's a tricky thing, right?
Yeah, because a lot of things will have a stipulation saying that you are resistant or whatever to spells and magical effects, which are decidedly not spells,
Yes.
but also decidedly magical. Right? They're very magical.
Yeah, how do we define, I guess, a magical effect or a magic-like thing? Interesting. I'll have to figure that out because it could be... Are we talking like X-Men mutants, which are... Those aren't magical, but they are magic-like in many ways. But those are,
I would
quote,
say
mutants,
that
right?
Most of the Marvel mutants utilize magical effects, yes.
Yeah, that. Do you think that counts as magic-like enough?
It calls into question, A, what is non-magic for us, but B, I think more importantly, what non-magical / magic adjacent things are we able to incorporate that fit into a post-apocalypse? Like that specific setting is really strange, because is it the apocalypse that takes the magic out? Was it no magic before and something bad just happened because people are the worst? And why are they mutants? What is the mutation?
So what you're telling me is I'm going to have to write a bunch of lore. All right, I can do that. Should be an interesting and very complex prompt.
This is from Big Papa Schaefer on TikTok.
All right, thanks, Big Papa. We appreciate you, and we appreciate all of you for listening here today. And Michael, I appreciate you for recording a podcast with me. Thanks so much for being here.
Always.
Michael, do you have anything to say to the people before we say goodbye?
I do have something, strangely enough, to say to the people before we say goodbye. This is not D&D related at all, but it is something that happened to me today, and it's just on my mind. I had something else that I was going to talk about, but I'm going to say this instead. Put gloves on your kids. If you have a toddler, my son is 3.5 years old. Put gloves onto their little hands. Their digits are so small, and they get cold so fast.
Yep.
The forecast in Ohio today is a balmy 44, which is much warmer than it has been the past week and a half. Still not warm.
No.
Put gloves onto your kids' hands. I think my son is immune to temperature. At least that's how he acts. But I know, looking into his eyes, that he is freezing cold. And they're just going to keep playing. If you don't make them stop, they will keep playing forever. So put gloves on them.
Get some mittens for them kids. Good. Great. Appreciate you, Michael.
And that's it. I appreciate you.
Thanks, everybody, for listening, and we will talk to you next week. Until then,
Goodbye.
goodbye.